I'm shocked. I, for one, am shocked because I really thought that Donald Trump was going to cut the military budget. I'm also really shocked because he's a businessman. I'm surprised that he's doing this with terrorists. And he also cares about the working guy, unless they're working in places like government where a lot of working class people work.
Or unless they're working at his hotels or his casinos or under him in any way.
I mean, I'm really surprised. There was no evidence that the Republicans would in any way increase the military budget. I mean, what about Tulsi Gabbard? She's great on all these issues.
She's very anti-war, I heard.
Yes. I'm really also surprised about the whole thing where he once again rolled back any restrictions that our military has in terms of killing civilians. I'm very surprised about that.
We have great things happening with our military. We also essentially approved a budget, which is in the facility. You'll like to hear this, of $1 trillion, $1 trillion. And nobody's seen anything like it. We have to build our military, and we're very cost conscious, but the military is something that we have to build, and we have to be strong because you got a lot of bad forces out there now. So we're going to be approving a budget, and I'm proud to say, actually, the biggest one we've ever done for the military. We have great...
Sounds about right. You know who he's sitting next to there when he says, "You're going to like this"? He's sitting next to the man committing a genocide at this current moment. Yes. This was it, I guess. Not to make it about this, but it's just, it's just a bit of a joke. So he said, "My politics hasn't changed at all. I wanted to cut the Pentagon for 20 years. Do you not want to cut it because Elon or Trump does, if they really do?" Although there's a caveat
That's
there.
a hilarious parenthetical.
And my point is that the Democrats are not responsive to their base, and MAGA responded to our policies before they did.
Again, to say that they're not responsive to the base, they are. Nancy Pelosi knelt in a kente cloth with a bunch of Democrats. That's just how they respond. And the truth is, the Republicans are even thinner in their sincerity towards particularly pro-worker or anti-war policies than the Democrats.
But also,
wait a second.
Yeah.
I want to know what secret X-ray vision you have, Matt, that you could tell this. How is it that you could see that from advance?
It's called
so far in advance.
It's called object permanence,
and an understanding of politics in the Republican Party. But he's also saying there that MAGA responded to our policies before they did. So that's an insinuation that MAGA, whatever that is, Donald Trump's administration, responded to progressive policies before the Democrats did?
in a campaign season. Wow.
Well, I mean, Lena Khan was a response to the Democratic base antitrust, and that was a good response to the Democratic base.
Joe Biden going to the picket line.
Yes,
they respond to their base. It's
it's not enough. It's insufficient.
But taking it as this is what Glenn does too. Any sort of signal that the Republicans are doing something, they treat as if it's completely oh, look at this, a new era is upon us, where they know if a Democrat says something like we support the PRO Act or something like that, well, we have to see how the follow through is going to be.
Exactly.
And it's accurate to say that the Republicans are more responsive to their base than the Democrats. That's 100% true. And we're seeing what that looks like right now. Mass deportations, we're seeing people being taken without due process and thrown into El Salvador prisons. That's the truth. But the idea that MAGA is responsive to the progressive base is one of the most hilarious things I've ever heard in my life. And it just got disproven with this $1 trillion budget for the Pentagon, which has failed an audit every year that I can think of going back. How long back does it go?
At least failed at least 9 audits. And they don't do it every year. They realize maybe we need a little time to warm up. But yeah, there you have it. Very shocking. Very, very shocking.
And then these are going to be contracts to Elon Musk, by the way. This has already been announced.
We talked about $6 billion just coming out of the Space Force. So
maybe there's also a budget there for...
Oh, your mic's down.
Maybe there's also a budget item in there for occupying Gaza, which he also suggested during that press conference.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure that's in the real estate budget that they have, the capital investment. Here is, speaking of which, here is Donald Trump essentially touting ethnic cleansing. This is coming on the heels, and like I even saw CNN report on the essentially assassination of 15 EMTs in Gaza.
Buried them in a mass grave, and some of them had their hands tied behind their back in their bodies.
And let's, they found video, the phone of one of these EMTs. Apparently, the Israeli soldiers that assassinated these people, killed them in cold blood, didn't realize there was a phone, and he was recording himself throughout the whole thing, and it shows that the Israeli Defense Forces fabricated a total 100% lie as to how these people died and what they were doing at the time, and then buried them in mass graves. CNN, Jake Tapper played the report. It was, there was a real sense of begrudging, and sort of like, it appears as if the story that the IDF told us was conflicts with a video of the entire thing.
We played yesterday the Fox News segment on it, which was better.
Yes.
Way better.
But it was fascinating how it was just sort of like set up. This minute by minute video of what happened contradicts the story of the IDF, as opposed to like the story from the IDF is obviously an abject lie.
I mean, they've been bombing hospitals for this 1.5 year long genocide. They at the beginning pretended like they were misfired Hamas rockets. Now they don't even pretend anymore. Nope. So like, why are we taking like, oh, they misrepresented? No, they're lying because they don't care.
The point is, they're between this and the starving of all sorts of aid to the Palestinian people. They are attempting to make it so unlivable there, both in like literally killing people, but that they are hoping that if they figure out a way of deporting people to other countries that will take them, that they will basically have an empty Gaza suitable to become the next, I don't know, Gold Coast of Florida, whatever it is. Here is Donald Trump.
It's an incredible piece of important real estate, and I think it's something that we would be involved in, but, having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day. That's a hell of a place. It's you know what I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in, because they really don't. And when they had good...
Pause it. Let's just be clear. Palestinians want to live there.
Yeah, right.
Palestinians want to live there. Many have stayed to provide services to their fellow Gazans and have risked their lives or lost their lives.
They want to stay there so badly that they are risking their death.
And they also want to live there without being bombed and shot at.
Right.
And,
although
attacked.
I should say that there was a smaller window of opportunity for people to escape, and it often had to come in the form of bribes to the Egyptian government on the southern side of the Israeli or of the Gaza border. The people that are left there are still trapped in the open air prison. So like, they're basically, the Israeli government is giving them two options. We will ethnically cleanse you, or we will enact our final solution. And that's kind of what they're doing now. Apparently it's been like 30 days since food has gotten in, and the Israelis have taken 50% of the Gaza territory, starting from the south, from the Egyptian border this time. Rafah, they've just captured. So this is happening right now.
What I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in, because they really don't. And when they have good living, real living, where Hamas and all of the problems they have, the level of death on the Gaza Strip is just incredible. And I've said it. I don't understand why Israel ever gave it up. Israel owned it. It wasn't this man, so I can say it. He wouldn't have given it up. I know him very well. There's no way. They took oceanfront property and they gave it to people for peace. How did that work out? Not good.
Is the immigration, sorry, Mr. President, is the immigration?
Israel never owned the Gaza Strip. They had occupied the Gaza Strip.
That's a war crime.
Yeah, the reason that they left was not for peace, and it's so hard to see Netanyahu grinning as the person who's done all this destruction, as Trump talks about how now it's unlivable because it's so destroyed. But Israel withdrew from its occupation of Gaza in part because it was a hornet's nest, because it's such a small strip of land. And the IDF was having so many problems, so they figured, oh, we'll let them have their elections. And then they elected Hamas, and then now Israel has used the boogeyman of Hamas as a pretext for violence against the Palestinian people since that election. It was like 20 years ago at this point?
It was 20 years ago, and it was a unilateral move. They left the Gaza Strip, except for surrounding it, almost like the Warsaw Ghetto.
Yep.
And the idea was to further their strategy of making it impossible for a coherent Palestinian leadership to represent the Palestinian people. They knew that Hamas was empowered in the Gaza Strip, not at the least of which because Israel had been part of their policy was to empower Hamas.
Netanyahu said
as a way of preventing there being a unified national Palestinian movement, and that was their agenda. And to a large extent, it succeeded in that regard. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.